Hi, everybody. How you doing? Oh, geez. Oh, well. Can you hear me okay? I forgot to put on my hook up my big microphone. If not, I can hook it up and see what happens. Is the sound all right? This uses the one in my computer. Hi, NS something. Okay, so the sound's okay. Thanks, Hughes. Oh, boy. So what's going on? Javier, how are you? Donald, hey, Lee, Mark. How are things in Washington, Mark? Washington State. David. Now there's Richard from Wash State, and then there's Mark from Washington State. Are you guys both from Washington, the state of Washington? Okay, good. Hi, Watch Habit. How are you? Oh, good, good. All right. Okay. Hi, Klaus. How are you? How are things in Oslo? Are you having the what do they call it? The White Nights? They call it White Nights in Russia. I was in Russia a few years ago, about around this time of year, and they had these White Nights. It was like sort of early morning or early evening, all night long. It's a lot of fun. It froze. Uh-oh. Okay, had a freeze there. Hang on a sec. Okay, is everything okay again? It froze. Yeah, thanks. Watch out, I'm doing fine. Forbin, how are you? San Francisco. God, I used to live in San Francisco. Love San Francisco. Um, hey, Crappy, how's it going? From Portland. Yeah, I got relatives in well, outside of Portland. They used to be in Portland. Okay, drinking my coffee or chocolate or whatever it is. Hey, Truth Beers, Gildy, you made it. Oh, good. You ready? Ah, there we are. This thing keeps freezing. I don't know what it is. We'll see. One of those things. Hang on, I know something that might help. Hang on a second. And there we go. I'll turn that off. That may help the stream a little. Oh boy. Coffee in the afternoon. Yeah, I don't have any sense whatsoever. This is when I have my decaf, my 3 o'clock coffee, and I don't get around to it till later. Okay. Goats chewing the Ethernet cables again. They're not wireless goats. Yeah, goats. Oh, they're our goats. They're always a source of joy. Large teacup. Yeah, it's a big fat coffee mug is what it is. Hey, now Shed, how you doing, man? Okay. Um, so what's up? Um, as far as the watchmaking project is concerned, I don't think I've heard anything that I did that I knew from last week. We've got I didn't hear back from uh, uh, Agonor. I haven't heard back from them. I got a feeling I'm not going to. If I haven't heard, I mean, so we had a real good conversation going. All of a sudden, it stopped, and I think that what happened was that these guys are super nice people, and they didn't want to be disappointing for anyone. So we might as well set that aside for now. Actually makes 25 shots of espresso. Yeah, that's what it is. I'll be wide-eyed all night. Anyway, so I think we can put that aside. Um, the option of the UWD 33.1-2, which is the basically it's the UWD. I don't know what the -2 is, but it's three hands with the subdial at 6 o'clock. And that is like a really good movement. It's one by Marco Lang, made it before he left. And they were talking about the center seconds, and it was going to be ready in October. Then they said they didn't know if or when. And things are jumbled up. And of all of the times to start a project like this, we probably picked one of the more problematic ones. So that's that. The couple other things I ran across. One is this one thing. It seems to be that the watch companies are coming alive again. I mean, they've been over a good part of the year so far. They've been sort of out of commission. A lot of the people who would work in the making watches were, they were quarantined at home like everybody else. I guess that's our staying at home, staying safe. Now, it's one thing to make watches in a shop with a table and everything like that. And it's another thing to do it online. I mean, a lot of things you can do online, but making watches, I don't think is one of them. So there was that. And then plus the sales, all of the retail shops were closed. But from what I've heard is that they're starting to come back again. Some people on the morning group were telling me, they said people are starting to get calls from their ADs. Rolex is calling people and saying, "Oh, there's that watch that we heard you were interested in. Now we got some available." So that may be good news for certain collectors. Hey, Lee. Hi, Dog Pod. How are you guys? Tomas, how are you? So anyway, that's where I'm at. Hey, Abdul, and I'm not going to worry about it. I mean, it's like something. I think I'd rather get a really good movement, and so far I see three tip-top movements. One is the 1-4 actually, but things get more complicated. 5 if you want to count all of them. All right, here's what they are. The one that we started off wanting was Agenor, and I just don't think that's going to happen. The second one is UWD. We wanted the center seconds. I don't think that's going to happen, but the 33.1-2 is available. The one from Harboring 2, if there are 10 people who want to go for it, it's €1,300, I think, or $1,300, one of the two. There's nothing wrong with that. It just, I don't know. It's a three-hander with I think the small seconds at 9 o'clock. And since I already have one, I'm not as excited about it. But that doesn't mean, because it's such a good watch and such a good movement, the A11, that I didn't want to discourage anyone else from getting them. So if 10 of you guys want to get together and say, hey, that sounds like the best deal, go ahead. The other ones would be the ones, 5 people, 5,000 a piece for the Rolf Lang. And again, now here you're getting a real handmade movement. And I think that one is, it's got the small seconds at 6 o'clock also. Another one is Vaucheur. And Vaucheur requires 25 people. The price is really good on that. I think it was right around €1,000, something like that. So that's another option, but it would take a lot of people, who want to pony up that much money ahead of time. Let's see, what are the other ones? We talked a little about the Hua in China. I don't know if he'd be able to do it or not, but that would be another interesting option. Let me see. Do any of you speak Chinese? I think in the morning group we have some guys that speak Chinese. Nobody speaks Chinese, or Yeah, I'll have to talk to the morning group next week and see if there's someone there who could talk to him directly. I talked to him through a third party, and I'd rather talk directly. That's always better. All right, so that's where we are on that. Now let's talk about, hey, Rooted Rotor. So let's talk about some other things that are coming up with watches. Mentioned that they seem to be bouncing back. One of the things that I've done this uh, yesterday's video was on sort of going from a beginner to an intermediate and sort of stepping out of that. But, one of the things, if a person doesn't want to step out, why should they? Just look, I'm perfectly happy with my basic watches. I'm happy being a beginner. I have the watches I want. I sort of hang around with these guys who have the same kind of watches and happy as a clam at high tide. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. But in moving into sort of a more sophisticated type of collection, I was sort of wondering what you guys, some thoughts you may have on that. Hi, Roger and Joseph. How you guys doing? Hi, Emad. Hello. How are you? Okay. Easy to service. Huh? There's that. I sent my Parmigiani to Miami, and they said it'd take a couple weeks before they could give me an estimate on it, And I told them if the estimate was low enough, I might go for a full-fledged service on it. So we'll see. Service and overhaul, get a brand new watch. Okay, guys, so let's have some thoughts on that. What would be something that would be like moving out of the beginner's league on watch collection? I had a bunch of things that I thought and only screwed up a few of them, but I was pretty happy with that. I think that moving into a higher level of horology is tricky. You need still try and keep getting your stuff you want and like enjoy. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I mean, there's no sense in getting something that you don't like. And I think, though, what I like keeps going up in price. Or some things don't. This one, I love this watch. This has got a double hairspring in it, and those are complex and 5 ways from Sunday that I still don't understand, but I do understand what they do, and they keep great time. And this one I got a great buy on. That was then. This is now. I still think there's some good buys on that. That's one of those watches that if you get some of the older ones, you can get new old stock for very nice prices. Hey, Bobby Legs. The A11 is the easiest to service. Mark, maybe that might be. I suppose I should think about that more, especially since they got a watch in for service now. Complications of service, complications of service, more expensive service. One of the things that I don't know if some of these things will move from sort of the beginning to really advanced kind of collections, and that was what I was trying to figure out. Is that what do you have that would sort of be like a step without going off a cliff, so to speak. And some things I think are very interesting, but I think they're also more complex. Take for example, double barrel. Now, double barrels in sequence, they simply extend the charge on it. But double barrels in parallel are a very, very different animal to give constant force to a watch. And it's but if you have a watch with double barrels, that are in parallel. It's the same as wearing a watch. It's got one barrel and you just wind up and let it go to town. Hey, Paul, what's up? Having experienced all levels of horology, okay, I could debate JLC as a great place to be if that is where you choose to end one's journey. Well, yeah, I tell you, I usually don't think of going to a single brand. I would agree that Zaza Lecoultre has some wonderful watches, and there's one that I'm very interested in, primarily their True Second. Somebody told me they're getting rid of it. They're dropping it from their line, and I think I know why, but it's not because of this wonderful remontoire that they have in there, kicking a second hand around, which I think is very cool. Arnold and Sons can give you some interesting complication. The thing of it is why do we have to think of a brand with a complication? Why not just think of the complication and say, hey, that's a neat complication and go after that? You take, for example, remontoire, which is my favorite complication, which I think is more advanced. But what the ones you have it in are some of your most expensive ones. The A. Longa has one that has a remontoire. So does FP Journe. So does Gronfeld. Excuse me. All of those guys have them. So I don't know. Joseph. Joseph has an interesting point. Some really great watches have a ETA base, but the complication is what's the most interesting. On my Harry Winston, it doesn't have an ETA base. It has a Girard-Perregaux base, and on top of that, there's an Agenhor retrograde. So you can have some things like that. I like the whole idea, though, that everything is by the same guy. You take the Eigengraph chronograph, and that's like in a whole different class than a lot of the things that Agenhor did, that Mark Wiederrecht did, which was basically put on some really interesting function on top of some existing watch, some existing movement. I don't know if any of them were ETA, but they may have. I mean, you can find those interesting complications at more affordable prices. Yeah, you can. Yes, I agree. To me, that is the most fun thing you can do, is to find something that's affordable but really unique. There's a lot of people are looking, for example, at those some of the movements that THA made when they had all of those incredible watchmakers. There are a couple out there. One's the Ulysse Nardin, another is Cartier. Very, very interesting watches, not because they're a Cartier or because they're a Ulysse Nardin, but rather because they have a really interesting movement behind them. Yeah. No, listen, I agree about JLC overall as a brand that a lot of collectors, they've treated collectors right. I'll put it that way, and they haven't gone sort of crazy on a lot of things. But they're always a place to look. I mean, there's always something to find, and I think that the whole mindset of a brand and some nonsense like brand loyalty. Is a brand loyal to you? I don't think so. They'll go out with any collector, holding this coffee like an offering, like a begging bowl for load up for more watches. There. THA equipped is actually a very interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah, and it's also well priced. That's the other thing about it. Um, you can find JLC movement in a VCPP and AP. That's right, Roger. They've got, you know, they've been around. Uh, Arnold and Son has some of the best movement finishing in high horology. In addition, their movements are highly creative. Yeah, Arnold and Son has really been doing some stuff lately, and I think with that namesake that they have, they need to. The UN Freak and the Armstrong Gravity Force. They are. Yes, those are two very interesting watches. Um, and they're interesting in more ways than one. They have interesting movement, but they also what their functions do is really interesting. No, there you go, Paul. I'm with you on that. The thing is that I guess every brand wants loyal followers. Okay, so do dictatorships. So even though we like our brands, there's certain brands I like very much. I really like the works of Marco Lang. Now that's not necessarily Lang and Heim, but Marco Lang, and and soon he's coming out with his new watches. I can hardly wait till he does under the label Marco Lang watches. So that I think is going to be really interesting. But he did so many movements and so many fantastic watches for Lang and Heim. It's it just sort of breaks my heart that he's got to start all over again. And God knows what they're doing at Lang and Heim with his stuff. I know that they've done some modifications. The UWD 33.1-2 sounds like some modification, but I have no idea what it is. Hey, level 11, what's up? Have we already chatted about the Asian watchmaker? We briefly talked about that last week. Level 11, that was why I asked if anybody spoke Chinese. I sort of like to have a direct kind of communication with them, if possible. Right now, God, when I'm brave enough to watch the news, we have apparently fairly deteriorating relations. The United States and China have deteriorating relationships, which is, and so, that's, God knows what's going to happen with that. I don't like to think about it. In fact, I don't like to think about anything these days. Speaking of which, usually about this time of year, we start up our Grand Prix picks, and everyone wins a watch if they get the pick right. And so I'm always looking at where they are at Grand Prix. Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève, GPHG. They haven't done anything, and I wonder maybe there won't be a Grand Prix in 2020. Is that you have 2001 was when they started, and we got all of the stuff on 2019 that came out in November. But usually they start collecting watches around June if they don't have them already, and then they have in September they'll have the ones that have been the pre-selected. But I wonder, does anybody have any insights on that? How about Roger Dubuis? Have you heard from him? Ta-da! I love my Roger Dubuis. The more I find out about it, the more I like it. This watch is it keeps almost perfect time, and I wore it today. Every day that I go for a walk, I finally have a sports watch to wear. It's got a rubber band on it, and this time of year, that's what you need. And it's been, man, I tell you, you can find an easy diver with the RD14 movement. they're great. They really are. And then you got the Geneva Seal. You know, not many watches have the Geneva Seal. They used to all go to Patek Philippe almost. Patek Philippe and Vacheron Constantin seem to have the lion's share of them. Now, Roger Dubuis used to work for about 15 years for Patek Philippe. And so when he started his own watch company, he wanted them to have the Geneva Seal. And so he did everything on them that to get the Geneva Seal, including things like the rounded englage, all of the little things that they apparently like. And so he did. Now, there's the more modern ones that they have. I don't know. The design is problematic. There was this guy named I think his name was was it Garcia, something like that. Anyway, he was his partner, and the guy sort of fashioned himself as a designer. And some of the early designs but the movements were all beautiful. And so you have this sort of, you know, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, this particular one I happen to like, and it's got these little pointy things on the end. That's from their Sympathy series. Okay, enough of that. Forbin, you got it. Collaboration. Okay, hey Alexander, how you doing? What do you think of Ulysse Nardin divers? You know, it's not that it's anything for or against divers. I just don't do much with divers. I mean, I've been collecting for years, and this is my first diver that I have. So that'll give you an idea. I mean, you know, I'm just not the divers. If you look at divers in diver shops, they're none of the ones we collect, and in fact, most of them are quartz or something like that. They don't rely on mechanical as much from a diver shop. So if you want a diver, you know, a desk diver, that's cool. Now, Ulysse Nardin, my favorite ones are their yacht. Man, I tell you that I still just nuts about that Ulysse Nardin regatta. I love that watch. It's just super cool. Okay. Emad, you like the older Roger Dubuis. Yeah, a lot of those are very cool. The one that's just called the Sympathy with the little pointy, the pillow behind it, that's very, very cool. Okay, what's going on? You have an RD, LOL. Okay, yeah, I have an RD. You want to see it? Right here. And why is it LOL? Alexander, where you get your LOL from? Yeah. Hey, Francek, how you doing? You can search mono pusher. Yes. Yes, that's the only thing about that watch, Hughes, that I didn't like was they have a solid back. Blanc Pond, 50 fathoms. Regatta. Okay, the Easy Diver is far more beautiful in person than in pictures. I tell you, it's a heavy, nice, big watch. This is not for, you know, you don't have to lift weights. Just put on an Easy Diver and go marching around. No, this is one watch, and it's got great lume on the indexes. It's got a Geneva seal. You got a single watch with a Geneva seal. Unless it's now all of the Geneva seals are going to the Vacheron Constantin, except their entry-level 56s. They're about the only ones that don't have it because they've got that the Val Fleurier movement in it. Okay, let's hear the bezel click. I can't hear the bezel click. The bezel would have to have the gongs of Big Ben for me to hear it. They have one with an exhibition case as well, and it has a pulsometer scale. Whew. Whoa, whoa, whoa! That would be and it. Hughes, is that the one? Does that also have the movement by THA? What size is my Easy Diver? I think I don't know. Um, I think it's like big. Let me look. I think it's 46 millimeters. So that's a big boy. So, yep, it's about 46 millimeters. It's a big watch. There's no two ways about it. And um, but to me, it wears just right. And it's one of the best deals around because I mean, it's extremely well built. The other thing too, this is the trick is to get one with the RD14 because the RD14 was that they're still using that gold engraved rotor on it, and the newer ones, I forgot what they got, some weird name for them. They took that out, but they still apparently they still have the all of the things that are required for a. There you go. That thing is a fun watch to have. They have a bunch of different versions of this, and some of them have a white or gold, gold, yellow, gold. There is one that I saw for sale on eBay, and I almost wish I had bought it. It has a burgundy dial to it, and it's in gold, and it was like around 5 or 6 thousand, something like that. Whoa, what a watch! That is a neat watch. And like I said, it was on eBay. But this watch, they're not, like I said, it's not a little watch, but it doesn't wear that big, as far as I'm concerned. This the guy who I got this pre-owned, and it's one of those pre-owned watches that wasn't worn very much because the guy he had to cut this. He had a fairly small wrist, I think, and had to cut this back for between 6 and 7 inches, and I got a 7.5 inch wrist, and so I got squeezed on this one. So I ordered another band, and what I'll do is when my band gets here, I'll just take off one side and then have that. But it's like it's a watch that just does what it is what it's supposed to be. And as far as the diver is concerned, I'm a desk diver, and so I'm not. I see it as something that sort of a rough and tumble watch. I can bang on something, and I can knock out a squirrel with this thing. Just pop. Okay, hey, Urban Effect, how you doing, Tim? Okay. Hey, Geezer, how you doing? Okay, where were we? Corbin. Daniel Roth. Yes, Daniel Roth is another um, Joseph. Is that was it Joseph who said that? Yeah, Daniel Roth is a great one. That's another where it's a big thing about Daniel Roth, and I think this is something that everybody ought to have. This for your next level, from going from beginner to is to have a watch by the watchmaker. Now, uh, Roger Dubuis died in 2017, and it was right. It was really ironic because I'd just done a video on Roger Dubuis. It must have been 5 days before I did it, and then by the time it came out, he just died a few days beforehand. So, if somebody has a watch by George Daniels, for example. My God, that is just amazing. And of course, F.P. Jorn. I don't know if any of you saw this talk that he gave, but it's really funny. he was saying, I might die any minute now, and my watches will really be worth a lot. And I thought, what is that? The video? In the video, I swear to God, they made him up to look like he's ready to go at the any minute, and so he's going on about that and how valuable it'll be. And he talked about when Ferrari died, the price of his cars went up and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I could care less about a watch's value. Really never changes. The monetary, what you can sell it for or buy it for, that may change. That can go all over the place. Like my FP Journe Resonance just shot way over what I can afford, but I don't care because the real value is in the watch itself. I feel the same way about this one. I don't know if it'll go up or down, and I don't care. I get it for the watch. The same thing with this one, with a double hairspring. The interesting thing of it is that they quit making them because they were too expensive to make. They were just too much to produce, and doesn't bother me a bit. It may when I have a service done on it, but otherwise, see, I mean, you can buy. Here's one. $200 for my regulator. $200. Now the value of this is not going to change because I like it. All right, it's my regulator, and so how can the value change if you like a watch for itself? It doesn't change. And people talk about their investments and this and that. Fine. Why don't you wrap some money on your wrist, put it on your wrist? It'll never go up or down. You'll have it made. That's crazy. Vintage watches are cool, especially if they were handed down. I agree. By the way, that reminds me, in tomorrow's review, we got a review that I learned something that I never knew before, and it's by a young guy. There's the guy who has it's sort of a young gentleman's collection. But boy, he had some watches in there that just were very, very cool. And again, you can find some, like Geezer said, some vintage watches that are really just neat. Le Coutre, I like a lot. Okay. Oh my goodness. I guess it looks like we're running out of time. Okay. Most people who talk about value in the watch scene are actually talking about prices. Yeah, I agree. And so that to me is not interesting. Hey, Urban Effect, let's see it would be nice to stay here, but 23:30 at night. Okay, guys, listen, thank you all for coming. Everybody be safe. And tomorrow, take a look at that review. I think you're going to like it.